This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9. Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there an emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without the direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in to the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org, look for tonight's announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that too over air and Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. KE5ICX, Tom, Corpus Christi, on All-Star. K5MCD, Cody, in Dallas, over-air radio. AG5PM, Rich, Rockwall, over-air radio. NT5TM, Tony, from Bird City, over-air radio. N5LIG, Dale, Little Elm, online Echolink. WV5OZL, Brenda, in Dallas, on Echolink. KI5PGM, Travis, in McKinney, over-air radio. KE5JIT, Randy, Corpus Christi, online Echolink. AG9SG, Antonio, Oak Cliff, over-air radio. KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat, Milky Way Galaxy, Sol Solar System, multiple modes. W5BLT, Bill in Garland, over-air radio. And N5BB, Bill in Irving, over-air radio. Now let's start with voice check-ins, starting with short time. If you're wanting to short power low power short time check-ins, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from this evening.
This is Whiskey Bravo, number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
This is Kilo India 5, Romeo Tango Mike, John, in Grapevine, Texas.
All right, let's acknowledge those check-ins. We've got WB4, Mike Foxtrot, India, Ted, Dallas, low power. W5GUS, Gus, in the far, far northeast Dallas. And KI5RTM, John, in Grapevine. Do we have any other low power or short time check-ins? If so, please come now with your name, call sign name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Delta 5, Juliet, Romeo Whiskey, low power. Ryan in far north Dallas.
Copy that. We've got KI5JRW, Ryan, far north Dallas, low power. Do we have any other low power or short time check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Right, not hearing any more, so we'll move on to general check-ins. I've got everybody checked in on the w5fc.org right now, but remember, you can go to the website and check into Skynet by using the link listed on the website, w5fc.org. So if anyone would like to check in for general check-ins, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Sorry, it was an alarm of mine. I've turned it off.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is Kilo 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
I want to grab those check-ins. We've got KF5ZBL, Bill and Farmers Branch, and I got Kilo 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton. Did I get your full call sign or did I miss a letter? And if you would please let me know.
This is Kilo 5, Whiskey Victor Lima. I think you got it.
Okay, thanks. It's just whenever it went from kilo to 5, it sounded like it was cutting out, so I was just curious if I was missing a letter in your call sign. So thanks for that clarification. Anyone else need to check in using general check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. All right, next up is Echolink check-ins. And thank you, Rick, for checking in via the chat. I will give you some extra time. So if you'd like to check in over Echolink, please come now with your call sign and your name, and I will get those. Or if you don't have a mic, feel free to check in using the chat window. Echolink check-ins at this time.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
Okay, so looking at the Echolink window, I see a lot of folks have already checked in using the website sheet. So the ones that have not, is KE5 and KD5LQD Jimmy. So let's open up for open round check-ins. If anyone, any mode, would like to check in now, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Any mode.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
K5 JDW, John and Coppell, welcome to this evening's net. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to all who have checked into Skynet. Let's get started with some general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Billy. It's great to hear you, and I feel lucky to be here. It's been a frustrating week. But ham radio is always a relief. Now, if you'd like some comic relief, I have never seen so much stock footage before, and now you can too. Watch King Dinosaur from 1955. It's only an hour long, and you can discuss it with us on the Afterglow Movie Discussion Net tonight at 10:30-ish p.m. Now, personally, I think listening to Skynet would be a much better use of your time, but I can't stop you if you too want to see a giant iguana, well, a zoomed-in iguana, inflict mayhem on all sorts of cheesy special effects. On the other hand, if you don't think that giant-ish iguanas are your thing, there's a 160-meter contest going on right now. It's unique because it's the only single sideband one I know of. So if you feel ambitious or if you just have extra wire, SSB shines at night, see what you can do. Stay up a little late and see if you can make a few contacts. Oh, and if you enjoy contesting, get ready for next weekend. the ARRL International DX Contest, the SSB weekend, that is, not CW Ready, is next week. Get ready. It's not the biggest one, but it's one of the bigger ones. So there'll be lots of chances to get on the air next week. Ooh, don't forget the Irving Ham Fest next Saturday, 8 a.m. to about 2 p.m. at the Betcha Bingo Hall in Irving. It's officially called the Irving Ham Fest, but the Dallas Amateur Radio Club supports it enthusiastically, too. If there's any kind of gear you need, maybe some used books, because you listened to our great discussion about the ARRL handbook, this TechNet, this is the Ham Fest to go to, because it's a flea market-style Ham Fest. And there's VE testing, too, if you're ready to upgrade. And finally, please don't forget that this Monday is a fourth Monday, and that means GeekNet. We'll talk about rats, mice, black holes, moon bounce, satellite communications, and parrot squawks. Plus, bring whatever geeky news or topic you would like to discuss. Join us this Monday on this repeater at 7 p.m. That's 1900 local time. I guess I better go help put the birds to bed. They're getting really loud. NT5TM.
Great. Thank you, Tony. This is KFI-PDS Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Thanks for all those great announcements, Tony. Is there anyone else with any announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with some announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT Net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT Net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. Also, you can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there is no AMSAT East on that Tuesday night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Check the w5fc.org website. And as Tony mentioned, this coming Monday will be GeekNet at 7 p.m. Geek Out Beyond Ham Radio. We expand topics to include computers, science, space, news of the weird, and much more. No topic is off limits as long as it's geeky. Tony NT5TM is net control. Saturdays are the Night of Nets, where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookie's Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net control each week. Skynet from 9 to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. That's right now. Afterglow Movie Net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. More on the movie in a minute. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. Daily, there is the ARRLNet National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in, as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot repeater 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as promised, more info on tonight's Afterglow info. At this time, I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, to read the synopsis for tonight's movie. This is from KF5PDS.
ICX from Corpus Christi. Here is the highly accurate synopsis tonight's King Dinosaur. Dr. Ralph Martin peered through the telescope, observing the world below. He eventually spoke. Well, I don't see any intelligent apes, crazy mad scientists, scantily clad women, or even evil doppelgangers that look exactly like us. Let's make a landing and look around. Dr. Martin seemed rational and made very good points, but the fact this planet appeared in our solar system and found an orbit perfect to go visiting the surface should have been the first warning that something wasn't quite right about the whole mission. Before the astronauts could put the parking brake on, they were attacked by crappy dinosaur special effects. George realized he'd made a mistake, but little did he know how big a mistake it would be. Leonard Maltin gave this movie a perfect 0 and promptly exclaimed, boring, silly, and awesomely cheap. But that won't stop us from reviewing King Dinosaur from 1955 tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Billy. Thank you for doing the net this evening. KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. And I am very pleased and privileged to be able to do the net for y'all this evening. I love the net control on the fourth Saturday. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. We've already got check-ins on everybody on the website check-in. I'll take additional voice check-ins, so if you would like to check into this evening's net, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and move on to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So this time I will turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Now, on February the 28th, that's just in 6 days, there will be the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be David Hasenauer. His topic is going to be recoding the Mount Wilson telescope mirror. Now, public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the fourth Saturday of the month, which is tonight, there's not currently any scheduled stargazing. But time I checked, it was clear enough. You could see Venus in the western evening sky. It's that real bright thing. Overhead, the real bright thing is Jupiter. Mars is up there. You can see other planets, too. Saturn is very low in the west. It's already set now. Anyway, there's a lot of things to see. Of course, we'll be talking about a constellation of the week in just a little bit, so we'll cover some of that later on. You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KFI, JJ, back to our net control.
Great, thank you very much, Chaz. Next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Bill, N5BB, if you'll give us news about the National Space Society from KFI PDS.
Well, thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. By the way, in case anybody cares, the first Irving Amateur Radio Club Hamfest was in 2003. So that means this is the 22nd annual Irving Amateur Radio Club Hamfest, I believe. Although we might have skipped one during the pandemic. I'd have to go back and look. Anyway, I am the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. My email address is space@byrom.net, SPACE@BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference. That's abbreviated ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida, June 19th through the 22nd of 2025. So just a few months from now. Early bird reservations get a discount, both for hotel rooms and for the event charges. So if you want to go, it's good to become a member of the National Space Society, since you get a discount and get an early bird reservation in. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society on most months meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of the month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, March the 9th. Our presentation topic for this meeting is unknown at this time. We thought we knew what the topic was going to be, but that has changed. Our meetings are also available virtually via WebEx. Contact N5BB if you would like to attend online. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. This is on the south frontage road of Highway 635 between MacArthur and Bush Turnpike. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership of any group is required. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday evening, February the 28th, this coming Friday evening. The National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsored special award scholarships at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair in Fair Park a week ago today on February 15th. I was one of the judges at this event for space-related student projects, and we had some very good ones to select between. It's really fun looking at what kids are doing relative to science and space. In astronomy, our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at the QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. This is N5BB. Back to you, Billy.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. This is KFI-PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours from KFI-PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL with an article entitled Flickers and Flares, Milky Way's Central Black Hole Constantly Bubbles with Light. The supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way appears to be having a party and is weird, wild, and wonderful. Using NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, a Northwestern University-led team of astrophysicists has gained the longest, most detailed glimpse yet of the void that lurks in the middle of our galaxy. The swirling disk of gas and dust, or accretion disk, orbiting the central supermassive black hole called Sagittarius A star, is emitting a constant stream of flares with no periods of rest, the researchers found. While some flares are faint flickers lasting mere seconds, other flares are blindingly bright eruptors which spew daily. There are also even fainter flickers that surge for months at a time. The level of activity occurs over a wide range of time, from short interludes to long stretches. The new findings could help physicists better understand the fundamental nature of black holes, how they interact with their surrounding environments, and the dynamics and evolution of our own galactic home. The study will be published on Tuesday, February 18th. I guess that was already happened, in the Astrophysical Journal Letters. Flares are expected to happen in essentially all supermassive black holes, but our black hole is unique, said Northwestern's Farhad Yousafzadeh, who led the study. It is always bubbling with activity and never seems to reach a steady state. We observed the black hole multiple times throughout 2023 and 24, and we noticed changes in every observation. We saw something different each time, which is really remarkable. Nothing ever stayed the same. An expert on the Milky Way Center, Yousafzadeh is a professor of physics and astronomy at Northwestern's Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. The international team of co-authors includes Harold Busshaus of the Space Telescope Science Institute, Richard Arendt of NASA, Mark Wardle of Macquarie University in Australia, George McKell of Harvard and Smithsonian, and Claire Chandler of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. To conduct this study, Yousafzadeh and his team use the JWST's near-infrared camera, it's NIRCam, which can simultaneously observe two infrared colors for long stretches of time. With the imaging tool, the researchers observed Sagittarius A star for a total of 48 hours in 8 to 10 increments across 1 year. This enabled scientists to track how the black hole changed over time. Stand by. While Yusufzadeh expected to see flares, Sagittarius A star was more active than he anticipated. Simply put, the observations revealed ongoing fireworks of various brightness and durations. The accretion disk surrounding the black hole generated 5 to 6 big flares per day and several small subflares in between. In our data, we saw constantly changing, bubbling brightness, Yusufzadeh said, and then boom, a big burst of brightness suddenly popped up. Then it calmed down again. We couldn't find a pattern in this activity. It appears to be random. The activity profile of the black hole was new and exciting every time we looked at it. Although astrophysicists do not yet fully understand the processes at play, Yusufzadeh suspects 2 separate processes are responsible for the short bursts and longer flares. If the accretion disk is a river, then the short, faint flickers are like small ripples that fluctuate randomly on the river's surface. The longer, brighter flares, however, are more like tidal waves caused by more significant events. Yusufzadeh posits that minor disturbances within the accretion disk likely generate the faint flickers. Specifically, turbulent fluctuations within the disk can compress plasma, a hot electrically charged gas, to cause a temporary burst of radiation. Yusufzadeh likens the event to a solar flare. It's similar to how the sun's magnetic field gathers together, compresses, and then erupts a solar flare, he explained. Of course, the processes are more dramatic because the environment around a black hole is much more energetic and much more extreme. But the sun's surface also bubbles with activity. Yusufzadeh attributes the big bright flares to magnetic reconnection events, a process where 2 magnetic fields collide, releasing energy in the form of accelerated particles. Traveling at velocities near the speed of light, these particles emit bright bursts of radiation. A magnetic reconnection event is like a spark of static electricity, which in a sense is also is an electric reconnection, Yusufzadeh said. This is kind of a long article, so I think I'll stop there. This is in ScienceDaily.com, so I'll send the net back to net control. This is WB5OZL.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Looking over on the website check-in, I see that NV5F, Virginia, and Fort Worth over-air radio has checked in. So welcome, Virginia, to Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. My discussion topic of the evening tonight is TON 618, tons of fun. This information comes to us from BBC's Sky at Night magazine, author Russell Deeks. This was published in July 2024. So TON 618 is one of the biggest known black holes. It is contender for the largest black hole discovered, being 40 billion times the mass of the Sun and 30 to 40 times as wide as our solar system. TON 618 is, strictly speaking, a quasar, but the name also refers to the supermassive black hole, more properly TON 618 star, that powers it, which is one of the largest ever discovered. Taking its name from the Tonantzintla Observatory in Mexico, it was first observed and cataloged by astronomers Braulio Iriarte and Enrique Chavira in 1957. TON 618 lies some 18.2 billion light-years from Earth in the constellation Canis Venatici and is 40 billion times the mass of our Sun. When first observed, TON 618 was thought to be a blue star. Then in 1970, a radio survey conducted in Italy detected radio emissions coming from the object, identifying it as a quasar. A quasar is a type of active galactic nucleus, or AGN. Quasars are among the most distant objects you can see with an amateur telescope. An AGN is a region in the center of a galaxy that emits significant amounts of electromagnetic radiation, which comes from the material falling into the supermassive black hole that lies at the galaxy's very heart. Not all galaxies have AGNs. Our own Milky Way doesn't, for starters. It's thought that as supermassive black holes steadily eat their way through all of the available gas and dust in the region, the material falling into them emits less and less radiation, so that eventually the galactic center is no longer active. AGNs can be broken down into numerous subclasses based on the strength of the radio waves that they emit, the relative proportions of visible, infrared, and UV light, whether or not they emit X-ray radiation, and other spectral characteristics. These subclasses include Seyfert galaxies, radio galaxies, liners or low ionization nuclear emission regions, and the most powerful of them all, quasars. So to recap, stuff falls into a black hole, stuff emits electromagnetic radiation, and that radiation shines out so brightly that we often can't actually see the galaxy that the supermassive black hole and hence the surrounding AGN are at the heart of, because its star's light is simply outshone by that coming from the AGN. Then that light reaches Earth X million or billion years later, and we call it a quasar. TON 618 is one of those. Got it? Now, here's the kicker. The supermassive black hole that powers TON 618 is absolutely enormous. It's so big, in fact, that words alone can't really do it justice. So over to NASA, who've put that video is entitled NASA Animation Sizes Up the Universe's Biggest Black Holes. With about 40 billion times the mass of the Sun and a diameter about 30 to 40 times that of our solar system, TON 618 is a strong contender for the title of largest black hole ever discovered. Though it's worth noting that there are various ways you can compare black holes. So while TON 618 would be many astronomers' pick for the top spot, there are a couple of others. Phoenix A star and the snappily named SDSS J140821.67 plus 025733.2 that also have their supporters. And then there's the ultramassive black hole in galaxy Abell 1201. That's a story for another day. But one last note on TON 618 before we go. As described above, the putative galaxy that must presumably surround the quasar isn't visible to astronomers. What we can detect, though, are significant emissions of what is known as the Lyman alpha line, an ultraviolet wavelength emitted by neutral hydrogen. The levels of this radiation coming from TON 618 are so intense that astronomers have concluded the region must also be home to a Lyman alpha blob, a large cloud of gas surrounding a galaxy measuring some 330,000 light years across. That's more than twice the size of the entire Milky Way. So there's information on TON 618 from science writer Russell Deeks. Russell Deeks is a freelance journalist specializing in science and technology. He has been an occasional contributor to BBC's Sky at Night magazine since 2006. Does anyone have any comments or questions about tonight's topic? If so, please come now with your call. All right, not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next segment, Was Up. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA, for the Was Up segment. Chaz, the net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening once again, everyone. This is KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. We call this segment of Skynet What Is Up because it's all about what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will be going on over the next couple of weeks and maybe beyond as well. Slide Master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4. This image of the sun I grabbed off of spaceweather.com earlier today. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. Now, the sun is around its 11-year solar maximum. What's funny is one hemisphere of the sun going through the solar maximum, the other one is lagging behind, so we might have 2 peaks to our solar maximum. Now, I've talked about the solar cycle, about 2 months ago on Skynet, so we'll probably talk about it more again sometime soon. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. The 3rd quarter moon was on February the 20th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. New moon is on February the 27th. On March the 1st, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 361,964 kilometers. The 1st quarter moon is on March the 6th. On March the 13th, 14th is a full moon, and it's also a total lunar eclipse that's visible from right here in North Texas. I'll give you details on this total lunar eclipse probably at next week's Skynet. On March the 17th, the moon will be at apogee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,754 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. On February the 24th, in just a couple days, in the evening sky, you should be able to observe the conjunction of Saturn and Mercury low in the western evening sky. Now, that'll be in twilight, so you might need a pair of binoculars to see it, just because it's not going to be a fully darkened sky. Slide Master, slide number 7. On February the 28th, in the evening sky, in strong twilight again, the moon and Saturn and Mercury are in conjunction in the western sky. Now, the moon is actually going to be in between Saturn and Mercury itself, so you should be able to pick out Saturn and Mercury much more easily since the moon's in between them. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On March the 1st, in the evening sky in strong twilight, the moon and Venus and Mercury and Neptune are all in conjunction in the western evening sky. You'll need a telescope in order to observe the planet Neptune. That's much too faint to see with just your 2 eyes. Slide Master, slide number 9. On March the 4th, the moon and Uranus will be in conjunction in the evening sky. You'll need at least a pair of binoculars to observe Uranus. If you're in very, very dark, clear skies away from the city lights without the moon in the sky, you might be able to see Uranus with just your 2 eyes as long as you have excellent eyesight. But in the city, with the moon in the sky, yep, you need at least a pair of binoculars to see it. Slide Master, slide number 10. On March the 5th, the moon and the planet Jupiter, that's that bright planet that's overhead right now, are in conjunction in the evening sky. And the Pleiades will be close by. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 11. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question, or maybe you need a fill on some information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Hearing nothing, we'll go on to slide number 12. So, as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world that's the only one where humans live. And until next time, well, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control. Billy, it's up to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. Next up is space exploration and space history. So this time I'm going to turn that over to Tom, KE5ICX, to give us a report on that segment. This is from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX, and this is compiled with the help of Brenda, WV50ZL. So she contributed the space exploration news this week. Water ice has officially been found on Mars. This image, and if you're watching the video version, you can see the image, captured by the ESA's Mars Express, showcases the Korolev crater, an 82-kilometer wide structure located in the northern lowlands of Mars. Korolev crater on Mars resembles a vast field of snow, but is actually filled with ice. The crater, located in Mars' northern lowlands near the Olympus Unday dune fields, spans 82 kilometers and has a central ice mound up to 1.8 kilometers thick and remains that way year-round due to the unique cold trap phenomenon. This occurs when the crater's floor, 2 kilometers deep, cools the air above the ice, creating a stable layer of cold air that prevents the ice from melting. This effect is heightened as air is a poor heat conductor, keeping the crater permanently icy. The images, captured by the Mars Express high-resolution stereo camera, marks 15 years since the spacecraft began its operation, having entered Mars orbit on December 25, 2003. Korolev crater is named after Sergei Korolev, the pioneer of Soviet space technology, known for his work on the Sputnik and Vostok programs, as well as early interplanetary missions. Next up, Earth is now surrounded by a radiation belt that has never been observed before. In May of 2024, an intense solar storm had far-reaching effects on Earth, even reaching the bottom of the ocean, as scientists now review a torrent of flare activity on the sun caused by our planet to be girded by 2 new temporary radiation belts of high-energy particles trapped by the Earth's magnetic field. This phenomenon has been observed before following powerful geomagnetic storms, but the solar storm of May 2024 delivered something entirely new, energetic protons in one of the new belts. These newly detected radiation belts were sandwiched between the Earth's 2 permanent Van Allen radiation belts. One of the new belts predominantly comprised of electrons consistent with previous observations, while the other contained energetic protons, which has never been seen before. According to astronomer David Siebeck, these high-energy electrons and protons found their way into Earth's inner magnetic environment, with some potentially remaining there for a very long time. The belts remained intact for much of the longer duration than previously observed temporary radiation belts, lasting 3 months compared to the usual weeks. With subsequent solar storms in June and August of 2024 diminished the intensity of these belts, a small amount of particles remain in orbit. Scientists estimate that the proton belt may persist for over a year, and ongoing measurements will help determine its longevity and decay rate. This information is crucial because the particles in Earth's orbit pose a hazard to satellites. knowing the particle density and the effects of the solar storms can aid engineers in designing mitigation and strategies to protect our technology. However, the hazard posed by these new radiation belts is currently unquantified, requiring future studies to determine the powerful risks they and similar belts may possess. And birthdays. We have on February 16, 1953, Michael Ray Mantz. He was scheduled to fly an STS-62, but the mission was canceled after, I believe, the Challenger accident. Joseph Kerwin from February 19, 1932. He was on Skylab 2, one of the Apollo astronauts originally, but did not do an Apollo mission. Next is Lauren Lichtenberg. He was on STS-9 and 45. Then we have on February 19, 1956, David Lowe. He was on STS-32, 43, and 57. Here we got another famous guy, February 20th, 1921, Joseph Walker, who flew the X-15 flights 77, 90, and 91. We lost him just last year. In fact, he was the last of the X pilots still living at the time. February 21st, 1964, Mark Kelly, STS-108, 121, 124, and 34. And, of course, his twin brother, Scott Kelly, who was also an astronaut. He was on STS-103, 118, Expeditions 25, 26, and Expedition 43, 44, 45, and 46. He was a part of that long extended mission, I think over a year in space, and then compared against his own brother, and as a control firmly planted on Earth. Next up, February 26, 1952, James Bagan. He was on STS-29 and 40, and then finally, February 23rd, 1959, Clayton Anderson. He was on STS-117, Expedition 1516, STS-120, and 131. Now on to this week in space history. On February 17, 1959, Vanguard 2, or Vanguard 2E before the launch, was an Earth-orbiting satellite launched on the 17th of February, 1959, on board a Vanguard SLV rocket as part of the United States Navy Project Vanguard. The satellite was designed to measure cloud cover distribution over the daylight portions of its orbit for a period of 19 days and to provide information on the density of the atmosphere for the lifetime of its orbit of about 300 years. As the first weather satellite and one of the first orbital space missions, the launch of Vanguard 2 was an important milestone in the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. Next up was Ranger 8 was launched. This is an unmanned spacecraft that went to the moon. It returned 7,137 photos before lunar impact. The Atlas Agena B booster injected the Agena and Ranger 8 into Earth parking orbit at 185-kilometer altitude 7 minutes after launch. 14 minutes later, a 90-second burn of the Agena put the spacecraft into lunar transfer trajectory, and several minutes later, Ranger and Agena separated. On February 17, 1973, Manned Spacecraft Center is renamed the Lyndon B. Johnson Space Center. It was renamed by Public Law 93-8. The late President's interest and support of space program began while he was chairman of the Senate Committee on Aeronautical and Space Sciences and continued during his tenure as Vice President and then as President. On February 30th, February 30th, sure, why not, right? February 18th, 1930, American astronomer Clyde Tombaugh discovered Pluto. Clyde took an early interest in astronomy, building his own telescope before his 20th birthday. The detailed observations he made got him a job offer with the Lowell Observatory as a junior astronomer. That is where Clyde's job to photograph the small piece of the sky at a time and then examine each photo in an effort to detect the planet X that astronomer Percival Lowell had predicted beyond Neptune. After 10 months, Clyde discovered the object that he would name Pluto. Pluto was considered the 9th planet of the solar system until 2006, when it was reclassified as a 4th planet by the International Astronautical Union. Boo! To honor Tombaugh, some of his cremated remains were carried along on the New Horizons spacecraft on a long journey to Pluto. They continued to travel with New Horizons out into the Kuiper Belt. In 1473, revolutionary astronomer Nicholas Copernicus was born. Copernicus, in formulating the heliocentric model of the universe, provided the ignition for one of the most significant scientific revolutions in history, the aptly named Copernican Revolution. Untethered from the geocentric dogma of his times, Copernicus was able to start with a fresh slate and develop a more elegant heliocentric system of concentric circles or planetary orbits. Copernicus' work, though not initially superior to the geocentric model in its predicted power, gained a firmer foundation when Galileo observed Jupiter's moons in 1610. Copernicus was an exemplary scientist who became aware of his erroneous assumptions and, in doing so, sparked a major mental shift in the collective human awareness of our world. On February 20th, 1962, astronaut John Glenn was launched in Friendship 7 on the Mercury Atlas 6. He was the first American to orbit the Earth, and after a planned 3 orbits and with some worry about whether his heat shield was in the proper place, Glenn splashed down near the Grand Turk Island in the Caribbean. That summer, Friendship 7 went around the world again on a 30-city tour. The capsule was seen in person by about 4 million people in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas over the course of 3 months. A year after the launch of Friendship 7, landed at the National Air and Space Museum, Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., where it can still be seen today. May 22nd, 2006, the Hubble Space Telescope discovery of 2 new moons of Pluto was confirmed. The first evidence that came into observation was in mid-2005, but it took follow-up observations in mid-February 2006 to confirm the findings. Astronomers using Hubble's advanced camera for surveys found that the newly discovered moons, later named Nix and Hydra, orbit on the same plane as the already known and much larger moon Charon. This finding added evidence for the theory that the moons of Pluto were born from a collision between 2 Pluto-sized objects over 4 billion years ago. In 2011, a 4th moon of Pluto, Kerberos, was announced, and then in 2012, a 5th one was discovered and named Styx. And then finally, on February 14, 1990, the pale blue dot was photographed. It was a photograph of Earth taken on February 14, 1990 by the Voyager 1 space probe from an unprecedented distance of over 6 billion kilometers, or 3.7 billion miles. That's 40.5 AU, as part of that day's family portrait series of images of the solar system. In the photograph, Earth's apparent size is less than a pixel. The planet appears as a tiny dot against the vastness of space among the bands of sunlight reflected by the camera. Commissioned by NASA and resulting from the advocacy of astronomer and author Carl Sagan, the photograph was interpreted in Sagan's 1994 book Pale Blue Dot as representing humanity's minuscule, ephemeral place amidst the cosmos. Voyager 1 was launched on September 5th, 1977, with the initial purpose of studying the outer solar system. After fulfilling its primary mission, and as it ventured out of the solar system, the decision to turn its cameras around and capture one last image of Earth emerged, in part due to Sagan's proposition. Over the years, the photograph has been revisited and celebrated on multiple occasions, with NASA acknowledging its anniversaries and presenting updated versions, enhancing its clarity and detail. And that's it from me, Miss Billy. Back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, let's do a quick check-in round and see if there's anyone out there that would like to check into this evening's net. I just checked the website check-in. I didn't see anyone over there. But if there's somebody over voice that would like to check into this evening's net, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any check-ins, so let's go ahead and return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA, for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening once again, everyone. Slide Master, slide number 13. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen over North Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is actually two constellations, Canis Minor, the little dog, and Monoceros. Now, what the heck is a Monoceros? Shouldn't it be like a hippopotamus or a rhinoceros? That would be better, wouldn't it be? Monoceros, rhinoceros. No. Monoceros is actually a unicorn. Canis Minor's name comes from the lesser dog in Latin. Canis Minor represents the smaller dog following Orion, the hunter, in Greek mythology. The dog is often depicted pursuing a hare represented by a constellation of Lepus. Monoceros is a unicorn. I'd have to, like I said, I need to change it to hippopotamus. Yeah. It's more of a modern day constellation, Monoceros is, and having been introduced in the 1600s, there are no myths associated with this constellation. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. How do we find these constellations? Well, if we look high in the southern sky right now, well, last time I looked it was clouding up, so maybe not right now, but in the evening sky over the next week or so, you can find Orion by looking for the three stars of equal brightness in a straight line and evenly spaced. That's the belt Orion. There are two bright stars above the belt stars that represent Orion's shoulders. The brighter one on the left is Betelgeuse. The one on the right is Bellatrix. Two stars below Orion's belt form Isnes. The one on the left is Scythe, and the one on the right is Rigel. Starting with Orion's shoulder stars, draw a line from Bellatrix to Betelgeuse and keep going. You should run into the brightest star in Canis Minor, Procyon. In between Procyon and Betelgeuse is the faint constellation of Monoceros. Slide Master, slide number 15, the jokes of the week. I think you may have figured out I have a bit of a cold, so I hope I make it through this whole segment. Now, what is the difference between a carrot and a unicorn? The first is a funny feast. The other one is a funny beast. How do unicorns get to the park? On a unicycle. What state do unicorns like the most? Maine. You know, the Maine. Okay. What do you call the best student at Unicorn University? We call them the acorn. Why do unicorns want to go to the private school? So they could wear a uniform. And so, the last joke in this part, what do you get when you mix a unicorn and a cow? Corned beef. Slide master, slide number 16, please. Procyon, which is Alpha Canis minoris, is the proper name for Procyon, really means before the dog, because it rises before Sirius, the dog star, in Canis Major. Procyon is a yellow-white star of spectral class F5. The mass is 1.48 solar masses, which is it's about twice the sun's diameter. It's about 7.5 times more luminous than our sun. Its visual magnitude is 0.37. The star is 11.4 light years distant. Like its brighter companion Sirius, Procyon also has a white dwarf companion star orbiting it. Procyon B is magnitude 13, which is kind of faint, and it's very difficult to resolve due to its approximate 3 arcsecond separation from its primary star. The binary nature of Procyon was long suspected for many years before finally being confirmed. Gompsia comes from the Arabic phrase al-Gamias, which means watery-eyed or the weeping one. This comes from the ancient Arabic legend that Canis Minor and Canis Major were two sisters. One of the sisters, represented by Canis Major, eloped, leaving the sibling behind and sad and lonely. Another version of the story has the sisters separated by the river of the Milky Way. It's a hot star, blue-white hot star, spectral class B8, shining at magnitude 2.9. It's a distance of 170 light years. It's slightly variable, belonging to the Gamma Cassiopeia category of variable stars. Slide master, slide number 17, please. NGC 2350 is a magnitude 12.3 lenticular galaxy, according to the Annals of Deep Sky, which is interesting introduction for this galaxy. NGC 2350 is a class S0A galaxy, which is a lenticular or spiral transition between types S0 and SA. It's a distance of 28 megaparsecs from us, which works out to be about 91 million light years from us. So it's no wonder that it's so small and faint. And it is one of the brighter galaxies in Canis Minor. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 18. Beta Monoceros it's a very nice triple star system shining at a magnitude 4.6 that has been confirmed to be a true trinary system. It was discovered by William Herschel in 1781. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, the system is believed to be about 150 to 200 light years away. The separation from the A-B pair of stars is estimated about 400 light years. In a Dynamax 8 telescope, Beta has no color at all. All three stars appear to be somewhat white in color. The star's multiple true nature was noticeable at 41 power, one of the Dynamax 8's lower powers. At 84 power, all three stars are seen appearing in a single bright star with two slightly fainter ones very close together. At 126 power, the close pair is clearly split. A drink break. That was good. Gamma Monoceros is a magnitude 3.98 and is a double star. It's a faint magnitude 13.1 companion with a separation of 53.7 arc seconds. The primary star is orange giant star with a diameter about 45 times that of our sun. It's about 500 light years away. Slide master, slide number 19. Messier objects number 50 is an open cluster that's believed to have been first discovered sometime before the year 1711 by Giovanni Cassini, the father of Jean Cassini, who wrote about his father's discovery in his book Elements of Astronomy. Among other things, the younger Cassini is known for discovering the gap in Saturn's rings that now bear his name. Messier looked for the open cluster in 1771, but could not find it, and speculated that the elder Cassini may have seen a comet. However, the very next year, in 1772, Messier did find the open cluster, and it became his number 50th object in his famous list of deep sky objects. The cluster is easily found in binoculars or a finder scope. In his book, The Messier Objects, Stephen James O'Meara mentions sightings of a red star in M50 by astronomers of the past, but he notes that he did not see it. O'Meara further writes that astronomer Brent Arkinol speculates that the report of variations of star colors are due to variations in the observer's eyes, particularly at low light levels. By the way, Brent Arkinol was a classmate of mine at the Ohio State University. By the way, Brent Arkinol was the main organizer back in the 1980s for the Messier Marathon in Ohio at Perkins Observatory, where we saw 108 of the M objects in one single night. Messier Marathon this year for the TASS organization is going to be the end of March. We'll get more information about that as we get closer to that date. Slide master, slide number 20. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, NGC 2237, 2238, and 2246, all combined together is called the Rosette Nebula. It's a very large nebular complex. It is best examined in detail through photographs, which shows intricate dust lanes and globulars. It was first discovered in pieces, one section at a time, starting in 1864, and its full extent was not known until the early 1890s, when Edward Emerson Barnard photographed it at Lick Observatory. The fact that the rosette was discovered one piece at a time is why it has 3 different NGC numbers. For many years, the rosette was considered to be the test object, with amateurs assuming that it was only visible in very large aperture telescopes or in photographs. The late Walter Scott Houston, always seeking to push the envelope, began encouraging amateurs to look for the rosette starting in the 1970s. Then in the 1980s, the revolution of amateur astronomy took place with the introduction of nebular filters. Under dark skies, people could hold an ultra-high density contrast the nebula filter up to their otherwise unaided eye and see the entire rosette fairly easily, just with your two eyes and the filter. Try this for yourself if you've got one of those. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 21. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Canis Minor, the little dog, and Monoceros, the unicorn. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 22, and that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Canis Minor, the little dog, and Monoceros, the unicorn. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and I steal for every Skynet. Also, times I use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time we'll take a look at a single constellation, although it seems to have a duplicate as part of it. It's called Gemini, the twins. And this is KF5JJ. Jazz saying goodnight at 73, back to our neck control. I've got to get something for my throat.
Great, thank you, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space launches for this week. So again, I will turn the net to Tom, KE5ICX, and you also have my permission to roll right into visible satellite passages since that is the immediately following segment. So I'll return the net to you, Tom, KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
All right, thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. We have coming up February 26th, launch of a Falcon 9 and IM-2. This is from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. This will be the Intuitive Machine's second robotic mission to the moon. On board will be the Nova C class lander named Athena, or ADDIE for short. It will fly several commercial payloads along with 3 NASA science payloads as part of the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services, or CLPS program. NASA also has its Lunar Trailblazer spacecraft launching as a rideshare payload, which will be deployed separately. The Lunar Trailblazer was selected as part of NASA's Small Innovative Missions for Planetary Exploration, or SIMPLE-X, in 2019. February 26th will be a launch of Ariane 6 with CSO-3. This will be from Kourou spaceport in French Guiana. The Ariane 6 rocket, managed by Arianespace, will launch the Composite Spatial Optique S3, or CSO-3 satellite on a second flight of the Ariane 6. Would be in the 62 configuration, meaning there will be 2 solid booster motors, 2 rocket motors on the vehicle, and it will send the CSO-3 satellite into a sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of about 497 miles. The CSO-3 is a military Earth imaging satellite for the French Defense Procurement Agency, TGA, and is expected to operate for at least 10 years. We have a February 27th, 28th Soyuz 2.1A launch of the Progress MS-30. This will launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This will be an uncrewed Progress cargo ship, which will launch atop the Russian Soyuz rocket to deliver supplies to the International Space Station. It's expected to dock with the station at 6:03 p.m. Eastern Time. February 27th, 28th will be the launch of Sphere-X on a Falcon 9. This will be from SLC-4E in Vandenberg. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 2 co-manifested missions on behalf of NASA. The primary payload is the spectral photometer, I guess, for the history of the universe, Epic of Reionization, and ICES Explorer, that's Sphere-X observatory, which is designed to map the entire sky in infrared light. The total mission cost for Sphere is $488 million, sharing the Falcon 9 rocket is the polarimeter to unify the corona and heliosphere, or PUNCH, which consists of 4 suitcase-sized satellites designed to map a region around the sun where the corona transitions to solar wind. Both missions will launch to a polar orbit and will be deployed about 11 minutes apart. A little less than 8 minutes after liftoff, the Falcon 9 first stage will target a touchdown at Landing Zone 4 back at VSFB. Then we have, let's see, to be determined, also from Vandenberg, SOC-4E, will launch a dozen satellites, this is Transporter 13, on the company's 13th small-sat rideshare mission to a sun-synchronous orbit. Then we have on March 12th, a Falcon 9 Crew 10 mission. This will be from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch 3 astronauts and a cosmonaut to the International Space Station. The quartet will fly aboard the Crew Dragon spacecraft named Endurance. Originally, the crew was to fly on C-213 Crew Dragon, as yet unnamed, but swapped the vehicle to compensate for the fact that C-213 still needs additional work before it can fly. The mission will carry NASA astronauts Ann McClain, Nikolai Tayuka Omishi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peshkov. This will be the second space flight for both McCain and Omishi, and the first for both Ayers and Peshkov. Then we have in February, spring of 2025, New Glenn will launch Escapade. This will be from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral. This Blue Origin New Glenn rocket will launch a pair of identical satellites, Escape and Plasma Acceleration and Dynamics Explorer, or Escapade. The 2 satellites named Blue and Gold will make a roughly 11-month journey to Mars, where they will perform an 11-month science mission while orbiting the red planet. Then we have on April 8th, the Russian Soyuz 2.1A rocket will launch from Sergei Rakshikov will be joined by fellow cosmonaut Alexei Zubrinsky and NASA astronaut Johnny Kim. The Soyuz is set to dock with the ISS about 5:04 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This will be the 3rd space flight for Ryzhikov and the first for both Zubrinsky and Kim. Let's see here. Let me check my time. Okay, I'm going to move over to satellite passages. The International Space Station, I've got nothing for you. No decent passes, but Tiangong does have 2. I'm going to give those to you to bring up the site. Apparently I didn't have it here. Oh, good. You know what? We've got one on February 27th and March 1st. I didn't put in the link that gave me all the particulars, so we're close to ending anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and send it back to Billy. That's it from me, KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. All right, we just have a couple minutes left, so let me move on to our 73 round. Are there any checked-in stations with other remarks or questions? All right, this will be last call for check-ins. I looked on the website check-in list, and there's no one new over there. But if there's anyone on voice that would just like to get in for this evening's count, this is final check-in round. Please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Again, final check-in. All right, not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and close the net. Tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And in about 5 minutes, the Afterglow movie net will start, where we'll be discussing 1955's King Dinosaur. 73 everybody.
And thank you, Billy. And yes, indeed, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Go microwave yourself some popcorn and come back in 5. This is KE5ICX. We'll be discussing King Dinosaur.
Hey, Tom, this is Virginia. I'm here to run the Afterglow. So just wanted to let you know I'm here in V5S. Okay, everyone, good evening, and this is Virginia NV5F. I will be your net control for this week's Afterglow movie. And the movie we are reviewing this week is King Dinosaur from 1955. So what I will do is I will give a brief description of this movie, which we have watched this week, and then I will take a list of check-ins of anyone who's out there who wants to talk about this movie. Whether you've seen the movie or not, you're welcome to check in. If you haven't seen the movie, you could tell us your opinions on what we're saying, whether or not you'd like to see the movie, or you can just tell us that you're just listening and enjoying the fun. So I will first read the plot of this movie and let you guys check in, and then we'll go around 3 times, and the first time we'll talk about plot. The second round we will talk about characterization and acting, and then the third round we'll talk about all the other stuff like music and special effects, and this movie definitely needs some comments made about its wonderful special effects. So here we go. This is King Dinosaur. It's a 1955 American science fiction film starring William Bryant and Wanda Curtis with narration by Marvin Miles. It was co-written, produced, and directed by Burt I. Gordon in his directorial debut. The film was featured on Season 2 of Mystery Science Theater 3000. So, here's the plot. 5 years in the future, 1960, 4 scientists, zoologist Dr. Richard Gordon, geologist Dr. Nora Pierce, medical specialist Dr. Ralph Martin, and chemist Dr. Patricia Bennett are selected as astronauts to travel to an ancient planet called Nova that has just entered Earth's solar system. The crew begins studying the planet to see if it is suitable for a possible Earth colony. After first discovering normal Earth animals such as a kinkajou, which they refer to as a lemur, crows, which they call vultures, and an alligator, a prehistoric species called Diplodocon, they soon encounter and battle giant insects, an enormous snake known as Gigantopus, and prehistoric mammals like a cave bear, a mastodon, and a glyptodont. Wow, who knew this movie would be so full of jargon and terminology? Okay, Richard and Nora paddle a raft out to an island and are trapped in a cave by a prehistoric reptiles. Even a Tyrannosaurus Rex, portrayed by a green iguana. They fire off a signal flare back on the mainland near the spaceship. Ralph and Patricia see the distress signal, grab the auxiliary nuclear power supply, and paddle their raft out to the island to rescue Richard and Nora. Before they leave the island, they set the power supply to unharness in 30 minutes and leave it on the island. After encountering more prehistoric creatures, they reach their spaceship. The power supply blows up the island in a nuclear mushroom cloud, rendering King Dinosaur and the other dinosaurs of Nova extinct. Wow, that was a very succinct and very abridged plot synopsis there. Thankfully so, because all of you fine folks out there watched this movie, so you're going to check in and talk to us all about the plot. So if you would like to check in this evening to speak with us, talk to us about your thoughts on this film, King Dinosaur from 1955, Please come now with your call sign, your name, location, and again, this is Virginia, your net control in V5F. Please check in now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw this flick.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray. Tom, where am I? Corpus Christi. Yeah, I saw it.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT, Bill, Garland. As painful as it was, yes, I saw this movie.
WV5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. Yes, I saw this movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this historical film.
Okay, so far I've got N5BB Bill, yes, he saw the movie. KE5ICX, Tom, yes, he saw the movie. W5BLT, Bill, yes, he saw the movie. WV5OZL, Brenda, yes, she saw the movie. KV9SOK, Sean, he also saw the movie. Is there anyone else who'd like to get on the list to talk about King Dinosaur? Please come now.
Hello, the group. K5JW, Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell. I'm just going to listen in. Don't call me. I just let you know I'm listening in the background. K5JW.
Okay, K5JW, just listening. So glad you're there, and thank you for letting us know you're just listening in this evening. Hopefully we'll give you something good to listen to. All right, well, let's get started. Bill, N5BB, give us your thoughts on the plot of King Dinosaur in V5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB. It stank. Need I say more? I guess maybe I should. Just number one, the concept of a planet suddenly coming from somewhere else, reasonably close to the Earth, although it took them a while to get there, is kind of impossible for me to appreciate scientifically. So that was a really hard thing to swallow. The fact that they were going to get there on essentially V2 rockets, which is all that stock footage was essentially V2s, was kind of crazy. What happened on the planet was crazy. It happened to have Earth-like atmosphere and Earth-like plants and animals. How could that have happened? And of course, the confusion between a lizard and a Tyrannosaurus rex dinosaur is unforgivable. And the whole plot idea of these lizards and snakes and things fighting each other is a really stupid idea in several of these 1950 films, which I'm sure they only used as a plot device because the special effects were cheap. They also had to throw in an atomic explosion which was completely unnecessary and the smallest atomic bomb I've ever seen. What else about the plot? The fact that they would send a couple, essentially an engaged couple, there is hard to believe also. And the women in the plot, every time something bad happens, they scream like crazy and run over and bury themselves in the nearest man. So, I tell you, that's not going very far on plot. That's kind of down the old rut of things. I don't know. So to me, this wasn't much of a plot in 5BB.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Yeah, the plot here was definitely straightforward and not very interesting. Okay, Tom, see if you could pile on to what Bill has said about the plot. I hope for a lot of wonderful details about your opinions. K5ICX from ND5F.
Oh man, what a movie. Boy, I think I had seen this many years ago and I managed to put it out of my mind. Now it's back. It's like a PSTD or something, or whatever it is, post-traumatic stress SD. But in any case, they managed to get through it. I couldn't believe, they spend all this time talking about, well, we have to go, and they talk about the stock footage with the mice, and I love the part, my favorite part, I think, is when they say, advanced aerodynamics are used to build the spacecraft, and they show this prop airplane that they drop from the ceiling, and the engines fall off. I was sitting here dying, laughing, watching this. Of all the footage, that's what they found? An old prop airplane that they were testing to see if they could hold together when they dropped it from a ceiling? Oh, that was something. So that kind of put me in the mood that this wasn't going to be a very good film at all. And it digressed from there. It just kind of went downhill like the airplane did. The four astronauts, we got four astronauts. They're all doctors of something, nothing that makes any sense. I mean, one's in geology, I guess. She's out there with a pick. I don't think she's ever touched a pick in her life, and she's a geologist of some sort, doing her thing. That was the one of the scientists. And then the others, they're there doing something, I don't know, nuclear goo or something was another, and a few others. Here they are. They're getting on a spaceship. There's four doctors, no pilot. Who's flying this thing? Well, it doesn't really matter because we never see the inside of the spaceship. It looks like it's a two-dimensional cardboard cutout when it does land, which, by the way, you can see through. Oh, that's special effects. Can't talk about that. And the fact that they get the stuff out of it, the equipment that they find. Nobody brings a camera. No camera necessary. What we do bring is a reel-to-reel tape recorder the size of a Winnebago. And they record all of their scientific information there and deliver it to us poor, unfortunate people in the audience. It's going on and on and on. Nobody cares. Nobody knows what they're saying. I don't think it was very scientific, whatever it was, and I stopped listening after paragraph 12. The next thing I notice is that I feel like I'm in a Walt Disney real-life adventure. Now, you won't remember these, but when I was a kid, they would have Walt Disney, and it was an evening of Walt Disney stuff. You got a cartoon, you got a real-life adventure Walt Disney in full color, because we all had black and white TV sets back then, and watched The Wonderful World of Color in black and white, because nobody could afford colored TVs, much less Disney colored TV stuff. And then the main feature film from Disney, which was always a full-featured animated or live-action thing. That's what you got, and you got the entire evening to watch all this stuff while your parents dumped you at the theater and came back for you 63 hours later. At any rate, it felt like the real-life adventure, because we got the bear, we got the lemur, we got the Tyrannosaurus Rex played by an iguana, and all this other stuff going on. And they're playing this serene music, so if the kids were there, they're falling asleep or bored out of their minds watching this thing. Today, they would have burned the theater down in absolute agony of boredom watching this thing. At any rate, it would go on and on and on and on, and we saw a bear. Oh boy, Smokey the Bear probably. But I got to stop, because I need to catch my breath. I'm going to turn the oxygen tank on, because this thing was so terrible. Thank goodness it was only an hour long, an hour and 6 minutes. And by the way, they could have skipped that last 6 minutes. They go and they nuke the planet. Oh, we don't like those dinosaurs that don't look like dinosaurs. We're just going to nuke them. We got this nuclear battery. We're going to blow up the planet. Well, you know. And by the way, don't forget, the planet was called Nova. But could it have been, and I've thought about this when I was talking to Brenda about this, because she just loves this movie, I mentioned, in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, they blew up Nova the person. Coincidence? I don't think so. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Tom, for a very thought-provoking and vivid description of The Wonderful World of Color and burning theaters down. I do remember on Disney Channel when I was a kid, they would run some of those real-life adventures of, like, bears and cougars and animals getting into mischief and making friends with people and all those. I love those old shows. Okay, next we have Bill, W5BLT. What did you gather from the plot of this film? What did you think of it?
Well, in the past, I have been the defense attorney for really bad movies and tried to sway the Afterglow movie net gang to like a film. And I wanted to do that with this one. I really love dinosaurs. I loved Disney as a kid. When I was growing up, we had the Sunday nights, The Wonderful World of Disney on TV with the movie and stuff. It wasn't quite the same as going to a movie theater, but, my parents still shut me in a room and then let me out. And I got popcorn and stuff. So I wanted to like this movie. And I don't know what to say because everybody's already said it. It's crazy that you nuke a planet just because you don't like the dinosaurs. And I'm thinking, what if Earth needed minerals, or we're getting overpopulated? Maybe we could, tame the dinosaurs. I don't know. I maybe can't tame a dinosaur, but they didn't do a very good job of that. I also was amazed that there was no pilot, but the other thing that amazed me is who's the captain. Usually, somebody's in charge. I mean, I guess this gets into characterization, but I can't even remember the characters' names. There was just a lot of screaming. The men were always shooting the guns at stuff. I guess the women didn't know how to shoot guns. It's unfortunate because, in Texas, that was the big thing that amazed me when I came down from Indiana, that I was sitting in a room in a meeting, and majority of women were talking about hunting. And I was just amazed. I was like, wow. So I'm in Texas, you know. So they didn't send a Texan. The other thing that I've learned from the Afterglow movie net is appropriate attire is required when you're tromping through jungles and in space or strange planets. So I asked my daughter, are they wearing appropriate attire, the women? And no, they're not. They're wearing skirts. I would think if you're like digging and things like that, maybe I missed this part, but you know, you don't want to wear pants or, you know, protective gear. I don't think that was done here. This was just awful. And I always like to give movies that were done in the 50s and 60s, 40s, you know, science fiction movies a free pass. This one doesn't get that. W5 BLT.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Yeah, they were wearing, the men were wearing like khaki pants and white shirts and like, you know, boots, and then the women were wearing, they weren't really skirts. They were these pants that look like a skirt because they're so wide. They're meant to look like a skirt, but they're meant to be practical like pants. I never understood the reasoning behind those, except that back when women still were expected to wear dresses everywhere, if you weren't in a situation where you could wear a dress, you should at least look like you're wearing a dress. So they looked like they were khaki, but they were just these kind of long, almost ankle length, big, wide leg pants that looked like skirts. Women were wearing at least boots that were kind of functional, but even then, none of them looked like they were properly attired to be exploring an alien planet. Also wondering how the women's spacesuits fit over those big crazy pants they were wearing. So yeah, weird. Okay. This is Virginia, you're net control for the Afterglow Movie Net, and it looks like we're about halfway down the list. Brenda, WB5OZL, tell us what you thought of the plot of King Dinosaur from 1955.
This is WB5OZL. You ever known somebody that you thought they worked at being stupid? Well, that's these people. You know, the girls were, I'm sure, hired on the basis of the fact that they could scream, and they were so annoying. If I were with them somewhere, I would probably put them out of our misery. That screaming was so obnoxious. Yeah, they never did explain why this planet just appeared, what it was doing there, or why, and yeah, let's go explore it. So they didn't seem terribly interested in doing any real science. They were just camping out, apparently. And I love it when they decided that the atmosphere was breathable and wasn't going to kill them. But then this girl says, oh, there's bacteria here that we don't have back on Earth. I thought, oh, goody, that's a great sequel, as they all have hideous boils all over their bodies, and they take back the germs that kill off most of the human race, if not all. I thought, you know, I remember Apollo 11, they were in quarantine for 3 weeks. They're on the ship, the aircraft carrier, isolated from other humans. It's just, apparently these people didn't think about that maybe there could be bugs on other Earth that would wipe out the human race, but they were stupid. You know, when we went to the moon, we didn't take any rafts. Not sure why. We didn't take any atom bombs either. But we collected rock samples and took a lot of pictures and kind of took a scientific approach to it. And our astronauts were professional and businesslike. These people were just bitzes. There were no dinosaurs in this. King Dinosaur, this movie had no dinosaurs. That iguana could not pass for any kind of dinosaur, much less a T-Rex. That was really stupid. There's just no excuse just to blow up all these animals just because they're there. Get in your spaceship and go home. Leave the animals alone. I did not understand the purpose of nuking them. Oh, and then they get to the other shore and they watch the nuclear explosion. So that was good for their eyes. Well, and their bodies too. The radiation, you know, they'll make it back to Earth, but they'll be very sick. So let's see, what else? It had no redeeming qualities whatsoever, and it wasn't even very entertaining. The music was annoying. All right, back to Nat, WB50ZL.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Thanks for telling us how you really feel. Yes, this was very ludicrous and implausible. Okay, next we're going to have Sean, K89SOK. Tell us what you thought about the plot of this fine film in V5F.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I know there's a lot I can add. Pretty much all the points I'd written down is what everybody already mentioned. You know, how crazy it was how this planet just magically come flying across into our universe and picked an orbit next to Earth and already had life on it. You know, seems, you know, just crazy. You know, we've seen a lot of these movies from this time era where they, you know, travel either to Mars or the moon or a moon of another planet. But this is, I guess, the uniqueness of this one was just a random planet from nowhere. So, yeah, the science is pretty weak. And then, as I already mentioned, that rocket was ridiculous. You know, when it lands, it's literally not much wider than the people themselves. So, supposedly they spent months in this thing. So, yeah. And then, yeah, I had the same question, like, who piloted it? You know, none of these scientists are, you know, rocket scientists. They're all, you know, different disciplines. None of them have any kind of knowledge of traveling through space. So, that was just, yeah. Just from the get-go, this was pretty ridiculous. And then, yeah, from the moment they land, they didn't really do any real science. And they specifically said their job was to land, you know, observe right around where they land, get some samples and go immediately back. No, instead they're going to wander around, fight with the animals, you know, and they just had to go to that island, even though that was specifically, you know, not on their agenda. Once again, if these were real scientists, they would have followed the agenda. Just not at all like scientists at all, which unfortunately we see a lot in these kind of movies. But I'll leave that for characterization. You know, then obviously all animals being exactly like the animals on Earth. You know, then we go to this island where all the dinosaurs are trapped. Well, if you want to call them dinosaurs. For a dinosaur movie, there wasn't no dinosaurs, as it's already been mentioned. But, you know, once again, why did they blow them up? They were all trapped on this little island area. You know, why would you permanently, you know, radiate the area? After all, I would think that we'd want to make trips back to this planet. So why would you do that? It's just no logical sense. But I am a little surprised by Brenda. I thought she would love this movie. Almost every week we hear her say, this movie needs a giant lizard. And we didn't get that this week. You know, that's exactly what she got. So I really thought she'd like this one. But yeah, I was kind of rooting for the so-called dinosaurs to just eat these scientists because they weren't very good scientists and kind of useless. Anyway, that's about all I got. So back to that. KB9SOK.
Alrighty, thank you, Sean. And yeah, that whole bad science thing about the planet, I'll probably talk about that a little bit. I think what Brenda always wants is a giant mantis. She loves anything with a mantis in it. And this one did have some ginormous bugs in it. So before I give my 2 cents, is there anyone else that would like to check into Afterglow and get on the list so that you can get in on the first round talking about the plot? If you would like to, please come now with your call sign, your name, and if you saw the movie King Dinosaur, which is what we're talking about this evening. Okay, nobody else out there. I'm sad that Tony's not here, but if this movie had birds in it, or more birds, he might have showed up. Okay, so anyway, you guys have covered most of the bases here, but yeah, I'm with Sean about the, I mean, appreciate at least that they had a rogue planet enter the solar system and come really close to Earth so that they could explain away or not have to deal with, like, super lengthy travel to another planet, which a lot of movies would have just said, oh, we're going to go to some distant planet, but we're going to get there in, like, 30 minutes. So they at least kind of thought about, like, a way to get people to a planet quickly by saying it's coming near Earth. But, yeah, the whole opening of the movie to me was pretty funny because it was like a documentary. And the music even sounded like, you know, this is the aviation of the future. And like Tom said, they were doing all these stock footage of tests of aircraft and stuff that were pretty silly. And all the, you know, astronauts being tested for space flight and all of the flipping of switches and turning of dials and research and painting rocket. The dude's painting the rocket was pretty hilarious. But yeah, I thought the opening of it was pretty ridiculous. Just that it played like a documentary. According to something I read on this, it was in the review that I asked Grok to write for us earlier on the messenger thread, and it said that the guy who did the voiceover for the opening documentary section was the Robbie the Robot guy. So that's kind of cool. That's a little bit of a sci-fi movie trivia there. But yeah, the whole, you know, now we're going to choose these beautiful people to go to space and no obvious pilots. I mean, I guess we're assuming they're astronauts, so they're kind of like Renaissance people, and maybe one of them can push the right buttons to fly the spaceship. The whole opening where they get to the planet, they're just kind of wandering around on some, you know, it looks like some, like the Disney Ranch or somewhere near LA, you know, just some forest. And they didn't even try to make it look different than Earth. They just had all the same animals, and I liked the exciting setting up camp montage where they ran. I think it was probably the same music from the space documentary part earlier. They had the little, you know, it makes you feel like you're watching some kind of industrial film about, you know, plastics, the wave of the future or whatever. But yeah, that was exciting. The setting up camp montage, and then there was just all this gratuitous, like, oh, look a snake, oh, look a alligator, oh, look a giant bug, and they're fighting them, and you know, the one dude gets injured, and there's a lot of screaming, and the women in these movies were supposed to be all tough and smart, but you know, the stereotype was still so strong. You know, the women had to freak out and scream like you're supposed to be this astronaut who's trained to go to a distant planet and deal with whatever you see there, and then you see a snake and you just like scream your head off, or you see a bug and you scream your head off. So yeah, and the whole, we got to go to that island, and I mean, just by the title of the movie and the fact that we got like 2/3 of the way through it and hadn't seen a dinosaur, you know, you kind of figured out that all the giant dinosaur, and everything on that planet was giant. I think all the animals are on that island think all those animals were giant. And there was no like, oh wow, let's try to figure out why this one little part of this planet has giant animals, and the scene where they used to say like convincingly, logic out that this is a T-Rex. They didn't even try to make, like Brenda said, they didn't even try to make it look like a T-Rex. It's just ridiculous. It was like iguanas got all the good parts in the movies back then. And the plot, them like getting trapped in the cave, and the other couple, they're just stuck in the cave, and they're like, well, the only way we'll get out of here is to call the other people out here. Like, what are they going to do? They're just going to go out there, and then they go out there, they go all the way out there, and then they don't do anything. They don't do anything at all to rescue their friends that are stuck in the cave with the little lemur thing. And they did have a camera there. They did take a few pictures. But yeah, they had all these things, microscopes and tools that they seemed to not really know much about, but because they were actors. But yeah, and that whole like they're escaping the island, and instead of just escaping, they stop and take the extra time to set up an atom bomb. And why didn't they set it for longer? They only set it for 30 minutes. I don't know. But yeah, why would they nuke it if it's self-contained? In fact, I think Jurassic Park ripped this off. They had an island with dinosaurs on it. So, and the other thing that I thought was dumb was when they were on their way back from the island, they only took one boat. They had two boats. Why didn't they two get in one boat and two get in the other? Because hey, what if one of the boats gets a hole in it and sinks? You'll have a spare boat. Or you can go a lot faster if your boat only has two people in it. So the two boats can go faster than the one boat that's weighed down by four people. And I don't know. It was, and then they, there's a mushroom cloud and like some pretty music, like, oh yay, we escaped, and we got away from the evil alligators and mammoths and mastodons and iguanas and all the other giant bugs and stuff, and yay, we made it, and there's a beautiful mushroom cloud, and the assumption, these movies always end so abruptly, it just says the end, and I guess the assumption is, oh, well, they got in their rocket ship and went back home full of radiation and bacteria, and my big question, apart from did Stanley Kubrick rip this off for the end of Dr. Strangelove with the pretty music with the mushroom cloud in the background, my other big question is, did they take Joe the lemur with them? That's my question. And if they did, how was he received on Earth? Was he considered a pariah because he was an alien, or was he just beloved because he was so cute? I think they should make a sequel about him. So that's it for me. So we'll go to the next round, talking about acting and characterization. Again, this is your net control, Virginia NV5F for the Afterglow movie this week. Our movie is King Dinosaur from 1955. And Bill, N5VD, what did you think about the acting and characterization in this movie?
This is N5VD. Excuse me, I'm trying to get my breath after considering the acting. Abominable. That's what I can say. I noticed that these four actors, the two men were actually in quite a few other things. William, and they were recognizable. I've seen them in other things. I recognize them. So William Bryant was in Battlestar Galactica in Hondo, and Douglas Henderson, who, by the way, committed suicide, he was in a bunch of things. The Manchurian Candidate, The Wild Wild West, lots of TV series, the FBI Mannix. So they went on to acting careers this little faux pas did not ruin their careers. The two women had minimal careers. Wanda Curtis was a singer, and I guess it's the only movie. Patty Gallagher, not much else. Just one movie, I think. That was about it. Or something like that. Let's see. No, I'll take that back. She was also in some TV things as bit parts. So, not exactly a all-star cast, although Bryan and Henderson went on to be kind of stock actors in various other things in the 60s. The problem was the writing was so bad that the actors just had to kind of fall through with it. Did I believe them? Kind of. I kind of could believe that the first two characters that get there would be smooching and kissing and running to each other. They kind of made that appear like it was okay. That was kind of believable. It kind of looked like they were a couple. They were engaged. But I didn't really believe. I mean, they kind of acted like they were kind of scientists. They didn't go very far with that because it was a very low-budget movie. The biggest instrument they had was a microscope. They had a microscope. And they had a box with switches on it and a timer which had a nuclear weapon in it, which was rather unbelievable. But anyway, so characterization, we didn't learn much at all about these people. We barely knew what their occupations were. They kind of threw those at us. Did we learn about their lives on Earth? No. Did we see them doing things on Earth? No. They kind of appear coming off of the spacecraft, pretty much. Did we see how they interacted during the flight? No. Why? Cheap movie. They didn't show anything about the inside of the spacecraft. And they kind of acted like at several points that it took them several weeks to get there. So there should have been quite a bit of interactions. I mean, they could have made the movie a few minutes longer by having some scenes inside the rocket on the way there with them interacting with each other, learning who each other were. We'd see their interpersonal relationships. But no. They dumped the first two astronauts out on the planet, and they're already lovey-dovey in their spacesuits, and they're doing their thing. And then the other two come along, and we don't really get much real interpersonal action between them, other than doing bonehead things and having to recover from the stupid bonehead things they did. This is Inside BB, and this is Afterglow Net. For instance, the first actor that got tangled up with that snake and everything, he didn't do a very good job at staying away from it and everything. And then what do? Even though somebody's already been injured, the other two go off to that island, not knowing at all what they find over there. Bad idea. The other people even said it was a bad idea, but they did it anyway. So, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like stupid characters doing stupid things with a stupid plot directing them. I'm trying to think what else I can say about characterization. The characterization of King Dinosaur, the lizard, as a T-Rex isn't even laughable. It's asinine. Any kid any kid in the last 50 years that's learned about dinosaurs realizes that wasn't a T-Rex. The armadillo wasn't a dinosaur. The chameleon, or whatever it was, wasn't a dinosaur. None of those lizards and things, they weren't dinosaurs. No. Even the alligator was just an alligator. Even the bug that they shot, it was just a bug. Of course, they didn't explain why they were large. On some of the other movies in the 50s, it was atomic radiation, like the attack of the 50-foot tall woman or something. But not in this one, because the radiation wasn't there until they set off the bomb. It was just not explained. Why did all those animals on this other planet look like Earth animals, although some of them on the island were larger? No explanation. So I don't know. The actors kind of followed through with the minimal stuff. They had enough stock footage that there wasn't that much acting to do anyway. And I think they just filmed in a couple of days anyway. You know, the best acting was by Little Joe. That was what they called the honey bear, but actually was the kinkajou. It looks similar to a lemur. He was a pretty good actor. He did a pretty good job. They would pick him up by his tail, and he would be very nice. He did a pretty good job. All the rest of them, I give him a 1 in 5 BB.
All right, thanks, Bill. I'm with you. I think Joe gave a fabulous performance. He even got a listing in the credit. I'm trying to remember what the little guy's name was for real. Okay, next we're gonna have Tom, K5ICX. What can you follow that with on acting and characterization?
Oh, thanks, Virginia. I was looking things up after Bill mentioned folks and what they were in and all that. I was looking for Patty Gallagher, who played, what did she play? Nora Pierce, and the mineralogist that can't handle a pick. I can't find anything on her. She was in three movies, none of which were very interesting, including King Dinosaur. So that's 2 other movies she was in. Other than that, I think she did musical theater and some community theater thing in, I don't know, Los Angeles or something. That's it. A long time ago, far, far away galaxy. Well, let's see here. The professions that these people were in was a zoogeographer. That was Dr. Ralph Martin. Our mineralogist, Dr. Nora Pierce. Physician, Dr. Richard Gordon, and chemist, Dr. Patricia Bennett. Why those people? That didn't make any sense. And they were all dumber than a box of rocks. And as Bill mentioned, yes, the women screamed and yelled, and the guys just kind of stood around like dolts and built shelters and paddled the boats. And nobody flew the spaceship. The cardboard spaceship never got flown by anybody, so I don't know. But here's the thing. They talk about it took them months to get there, right? And they built these relationships. I don't know what those relationships were, but what was it? Doc Martin and Dr. Pierce got together and decided that they were a thing. So I guess that makes them a paradox. Chaz, we're here. He'd appreciate that. But, you know, what afterwards are they going to do? But no science-y work, no nothing, which was mentioned earlier, and they're all kind of stupid. And they decide to blow everything up at the end. Why? Did they bring anything back in the way of samples or anything? I don't know. They had microscopes, but I didn't see them actually packaging anything away. I heard them talking on their reel-to-reel there. Where they plugged that baby in, I don't know. Well, maybe that's what they needed the nuclear power supply for, to power the vacuum tubed reel-to-reel that they had. I don't know. And then being so stupid they can't even bring a tent. I think you mentioned that. Where's the tent? You don't have a tent? You can't find your way back to the spaceship? What kind of astronauts are these? What if we sent, Buzz and Neil to the moon and they got lost on the way back to the spaceship? Well, they parked next to the pine tree. Come on. At least they got that. I don't know. Just goofiness all along the way. The planet thing, yeah, they're settling into orbit. Now, I'm going to tell you something. One thing that was interesting, I watched When Worlds Collide today, which is another movie where you have to transplant yourself from one planet to another, and that one seems like it only takes them 20 minutes to get to the other planet. But here's something I missed. We talk about that there were two planets orbiting the star, and so the star apparently went through the system and our system and didn't disrupt our sun. The star went through with the two planets, so they continue on. So now that movie makes more sense, although it still doesn't make any sense. While it disrupted Earth completely, why didn't the suns get... At least that film, they made it at least seem pretty interesting. I wish they made a sequel to that and explored that planet, because they get pyramids and high-rises and all that stuff, and parking for everybody. It was great. Why do they want to go to the island? What's so fascinating? I would go to the island. It's got a volcano. Yeah, well, okay. Maybe if they lived in Detroit and wanted to go to Boblo Island and ride on the rides, that would have been cool. Or the Jurassic Park thing. That must have been where, Steven Spielberg stole all his ideas from King Dinosaur and the island with the dinosaurs, iguana things. Okay, that's enough. I just ramble on about that. I don't know if I was much help on that, but I'm sure somebody can pile.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Next, we'll ask Bill, W5VLT, characters and acting in King Dinosaur in V5S.
Well, I think didn't really have a favorite character in this. Maybe that was that monkey thing that they were friends with. There was what sounded like a double-headed double yellowhead parrot. Is that what they call it? I'm trying to remember. I had a parrot growing up as a kid, and maybe this gets into the special effects, but there was a parrot that sounded just like that in the jungle, as you could hear it, and it just reminded me of a parrot growing up as a kid. So whatever that bird was, that's probably my favorite character. Other than that, I didn't care. The dinosaurs, I was rooting for them, or what was the so-called dinosaur, and I wanted some chopping of the main characters going on. The other thing that gets to me on this one, they didn't have radios. They didn't communicate back to Earth. And, some of the science fiction movies we've seen, they're talking back and forth to Earth. We had none of that. So, that's just odd. And I don't really have anything to say. I mean, they have this relationship with the two characters. But, the other thing that gets me is they go walk off together after you got lost before and then had to find your way back. Then you're standing guard and you go off in the jungle again. I don't know. I think there was a book, 10 Stupid Things that characters do to mess up their lives, or I don't know if it was a Laura Schlesinger book or something, but yeah, these astronauts, they were doing all kinds of stupid stuff every time you turned around. And that's all you can say. The best thing about this movie is getting together with you guys and critiquing it. W5PLT.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Brenda, what do you have to say about these characters and this wonderful acting?
WB50ZL. Yeah, well, the girls knew how to scream. That was about it. You know, if you know me, you know I often say, I hope they all die if the movie's that bad. Well, we can feel comfort in the fact that these people are probably going to die from radiation poisoning or the bacteria they've taken back to Earth. So that's something we can look forward to. So for all you youngsters out there, before there was a wonderful world of color, the show was just called Disneyland. And I got my start in my love of space and space travel in the Tomorrowland segments of Disneyland. They alternated with Fantasyland and Adventureland, etc. Different theme each week. And you know, it was all about the future and how we're all going to have little spaceships, and they were really quite good shows. But that's an aside. I like the little Joe character, and unresolved. They weren't clear about what actually happened to him. They should have made that more clear. I don't know whether it would be good to take him back to Earth or not, because there's probably bacteria on Earth they don't have on Nova. Now, I imagine that on some continent of this planet there might be humans, and I'm not sure the nuclear bomb would do them any good, but they just explored one little part of this planet, and as lush and fertile as this planet is, I just think there was probably some humans somewhere, and they missed an opportunity. And I'm sure there are mantises somewhere. It's giant mantises. There had to be. There's giant mantises everywhere. All right. I guess I'll stop rambling. This is WB5OZL.
WB5OZL. NV5F. Thank you, Brenda. Next, Sean, KB9SOK. Tell us your brilliant thoughts on our actors and characterization for King Dinosaur.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I'm afraid I don't have anything brilliant to say about this one. You know, the acting was pretty rough, but the writing was even rougher. Yeah, I agree. Probably the little lemur or whatever it was probably the best actor. Other than, I have to give a nod to the snake at the beginning that could actually, or I guess as they were sleeping, could actually roar. Never seen a snake that could bark or roar, so that was pretty impressive. But yeah, no, we didn't really know much about these characters. And they were, you know, we had different scientists and a doctor. We don't know if the two fell in love in the months they spent in space. Were they a couple beforehand? You know, they acted like at the beginning documentary part that these people were picked based upon their experience. So I'm guessing they weren't. Didn't know each other before this, and they fell in love on the ship, but we didn't find out about that. But obviously, they kind of insinuated that they were all really good friends or close once they got there. But yet, you know, we had the two lovers that wandered off, even though they knew they were wild animals and they were supposed to be on watch. So they apparently didn't care about their friends any. They were going to let them sleep, you know, being unprotected. They were only thinking about themselves. So, yeah, these characters weren't the brightest. As everybody's mentioned, didn't really feel much like scientists. So yeah, just not a lot to say about this. There definitely wasn't no character growth here. There wasn't much about these. This was pretty much, I think, just kind of supposed to be a kind of one of those monster movies, I guess, and just filled with 30 minutes of watching the alligator and our reptile spin over and over and over and bite each other, and that's pretty much a third of this movie. So, yeah. What else can we say on this one? Not a lot. So I'm going to send it back to Matt. KB9, that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Yeah, these people, there's not a whole lot you can say. I mean, as far as characters go, they were trying to get a good mix of characters for the time. They, had a couple of guys and a couple of gals, and of course, whenever you send, two guys and two gals up in space, you're probably going to come back with a couple of couples. And this movie was trying to have it all. They were trying to have science fiction and monsters, big giant monsters that look like dinosaurs, and they were trying to have romance and a little bit of adventure, and I guess that would be the opening sequence where you have a little bit of mostly lighthearted adventure with a little bit of peril, because they really didn't have any tension between the characters. There was just no dynamics between any of them, except for kind of the couple that were the two that were obviously had coupled up and were interested in each other. They tried to have some kind of tense, kind of steamy scenes between them, and then they had, the one guy gets injured, and then the other two go to the island, and then the other guy there gets injured, and they're trying to at least ramp up some kind of tension and peril for these characters, but there was just no action driving the plot. It was just like kind of walk aroundy, and the one lady wants to go to the island, and that was the only sort of we just need to collect samples and the one gal was recording things on her giant Nagra tape deck or whatever she had, and trying to look at things in her microscope or whatever, but there was just no through line for these people to, as characters, their personal issues or desires, apart from the one couple that wanted to be together. They were just like, oh, we're doing this job on this spaceship. We're going to go out for a little while and collect samples and go home. And the one lady wanted to go to the island, and then the couple wanted to get together. But there just wasn't any really, like, whose story was this? There wasn't really a main character. There wasn't really a motivation, personal motivations on any of their parts. There was no character that went rogue and became the bad guy, and imperiled all of them, or imperiled them all with their ambition, or there just weren't any really interesting motivations, except for maybe the guys being kind of insensitive to how girly the girls were and how not ready for adventure they were, and maybe being a little bit obtuse towards them and shooting guns a lot. But that even wasn't even treated like it was anything other than just the dudes being dudes, which is fine. But yeah, none of these people were very interesting. And the fighting animals, the iguana fighting the. Now I'm fuzzy on how big an iguana can get or how small an alligator can be. Maybe it was a juvenile alligator and a really large iguana, but to see an iguana and an alligator like seeming to be almost like equal size was interesting. So I need to learn more about lizards and reptiles, and what some of the other lizards were, or other fake dinosaurs they had. And yeah, the armadillo was hilarious. So yeah, the fights between the animals was, those were, I think, almost the whole point of the movie. Let's just have these animals fight violently, and that'll make people think this movie is an exciting, tense struggle of some kind. But even that was just repetitive and obviously gratuitous, and the whole thing of the two characters going out to rescue them because they sent up the flare, and then just getting there and not doing anything. Nobody really seemed to have much to do in this movie, and the acting was all right. It was boilerplate, dialogue and stuff. It was just kind of there. So they were just doing their jobs and trying to make it convincing, which it wasn't really very convincing. So that's basically what I have on acting and characters. And it looks like we have enough time for a round 3. So let's go for anything: special effects, music, lighting, trivia, anything you have. Bill, N5BB, tell us about stuff for round 3.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB. So I'm going to mix a lot of things together here. I took notes. Oh, something weird happened. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we read you.
Okay. I thought I pushed the wrong button on my microphone. First, all that stock footage at the start, as they were supposedly getting things ready and designed for this rocket mission, this was so goofy. They spent a lot of time showing you and talking about a jet engine. Guess what? Jet engines work in air. They don't work in space. So that was meaningless. The rocket, I'm positive, was the V2 and the U.S. variant. So at the end of World War II, Wernher von Braun and the other rocket scientists that the Americans were able to capture and get away from Germany, they shipped over a bunch of V2 rockets from Germany to a couple places in the U.S. A lot of them ended up at White Sands Missile Range, and they showed a takeoff there of the rocket in the blockhouse. I have seen that launch area and that exact blockhouse. It has a rather distinctive shape. It's kind of like a multifaceted surface, like a dodecahedron or something. I haven't counted the number of surfaces. But anyway, I know exactly where that building is at White Sands Missile Range, Nike Road. They actually have a detour in the road around it because it's a protected historical site. So those were just stock footages of V2 rocket launches back in the late 40s and early 50s. Did you notice when they showed the rocket going all the way to the other planet, every time they showed it, there was flames coming out the back. It was thrusting. It was thrusting all the way. Let me tell you something. That's impossible. Rockets don't work like that. They run for a short amount of time, and you coast the rest of the way. There's no way there's enough fuel to give any kind of thrust, especially the big flame like that, for long distances. So that made no sense at all. Did you notice when they get to planet Nova, they had all these scenes of the rocket going horizontally in other kinds of places? It was really bad special effects. They had the image of the rocket firing. They turned it horizontal, and they overlaid it over whatever other images they had of the background. It was really, really bad special effects. Really bad. I think there was just one image of that rocket they used, just turning it around, changing the size of it, but they didn't change the image. It's crazy. Did you notice there's goofy spacesuits with a huge, big, large helmets? And when they decided that the air was okay to breathe, they just kind of pulled the gloves off. The gloves were not sealed. So if the atmosphere had been poisonous, they would have gotten through the gloves. That made no sense at all. As was commented earlier, the women had these pantaloon-looking things. They were kind of like shorts with really big legs on them. And I guess they were kind of like a less sexy version of regular shorts or something for the women or something. I don't know why they couldn't wear pants like the men, but they figured they had to dress them in something different. At least the women also had rather stout-looking boots on, which was good. I like that in 5BB. Did you notice that when they were at their first location and wanted to go back to the spacecraft, they couldn't find it? They didn't know where they were going. They had horrible navigation. They didn't have any tools. They didn't use anything. They were just blindly walking around thinking, oh, I think it's over this way. Did they leave markers? No. Did they have any kind of radio direction finder? No. As somebody else commented, did they have radios? No. They should have. This was 1955. If this movie had been made in 1935, they would have had radios, which were comparatively new then, but everybody knew what radio was by 1935. This is 20 years later, after World War II, or after the Korean War, where they had walkie-talkies and all kinds of radios and radars and everything. They should have had radios. Let's see. Did you notice at night, it was the old stupid film thing. They filmed it in the day, and they just shaded it so you thought it was at night. It was very obvious, very bad. Let's see. Wrestling the alligator was stupid. The actor falling down the slope. Come on. You got to be more careful than that. And there was a couple of times when they did just stupid things and slid down slopes and did all kinds of things. They weren't very good explorers. What else? Lots of snakes at one point. Let's see. By the way, they had the weird giant lizard, what looked like a giant salamander. At one point, they threw in a giant turtle. There was a giant armadillo. There were some what looked like some giant oxes near the end, and an elephant at one point chasing him near the end. By the way, when they blew off their atomic bomb, they were all looking at it, realized they weren't that far away from it. Did they hide from the blast? No. Did they protect themselves from the radiation and the incredibly bright, blinding light? No. They just stared at it. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I mean, everybody knew about nuclear explosions by 1955. And then at the end, right after they blew up the atomic bomb, we've brought civilization to planet Nova. Ha, ha, ha. In 5BB. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. That was a lot. I'm glad you took notes. Okay, Tom, K5ICX, your thoughts on round 3 stuff.
Yeah, I'll keep mine brief. We're getting closer to the top of the bewitching hour. Special effects, not so special. The whole thing with the bugs, the oversized bugs, was pretty terrible. I think that's why they used the live-action practical stuff with iguanas and all that. Is that everything was so just terrible. The spaceship landing is with the V2 rocket. Bill mentioned all the constant thrust and all that. That's all they had was the ascent, and so they just took that and overlaid it, and you could see the scenery through the rockets, and it was just terrible. It looked terrible. And then the bugs were the same way. Simply the same effects, just literally double exposing the film. Who was it? The special effects, I was trying to remember. It was Howard. I saw it in the credits, and I immediately said, hey, those are the people that did Star Trek. And indeed, it was near 10 years later. I guess they got better at what they were doing because they were much better. Or maybe they paid more for them. I don't know. But boy, oh boy, that was really terrible stuff. Music is annoying. Just all get out. Oh, geez, that stuff was terrible. Plus, part of it would put you to sleep. The nature stuff was just like really, really boring. What else? Yeah, the lighting and that with the darkness, and that's an old trick they used all the way through the 60s and even into the 70s. So, in fact, I think some of our poor films today do some of that too with shading and that, although it's more digital these days. That's all I'll say on this one. Overall, pretty terrible movie. I'm going to nominate this film as the worst film we have ever seen, just because I think it is. No longer Creeping Terror, no longer Jetstream, no longer Planet 9. I think this one is the worst movie we have ever watched. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, thanks for that nomination. Maybe we should take some more nominations in the coming weeks and possibly vote on the worst. What is the worst movie we've ever watched? Okay, let's see. Bill, W5BLT, do you have anything for round 3?
Only thing I'll say is I will agree. Now, I haven't seen the other two, the movies that Tom mentioned, but I'm going to vote this one as the worst one I've ever had the privilege of seeing and participating in. I'll say seeing, even though I'm blind. Yeah, it was bad, and I subjected my family to it. I'll never live this down. W5BLT, back to net control.
Okay, Bill. Well, that's pretty smart of you to get your family involved because they can actually kind of give you cues as to what's going on that you're possibly missing, and I'm sure that's like a system you guys have probably worked out over the years. So that's pretty smart to suck them in. Then they can all get their ham licenses and get on here with us. Thank you very much for that, and we'll check with Brenda, WB5OZL, round 3 thoughts.
WB5OZL. Well, I'm voting with Tom. This is the worst movie. And boy, there's some real contenders here. Creeping Terror was always my worst movie, but I think this one's worse. It's definitely stupider. Creeping Terror was weird and had some crazy stuff in it, but this one was so dumb. It just boggles the mind. And in their defense, they did have some extinct animals there. That big armadillo, it was an extinct thing called a glyptodont. And there was a cave bear too. So I guess that's one point in their favor. I don't know where they got the footage of that. It couldn't be stock footage, but I don't know why they couldn't have got stock pictures of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was so ignorant. Why didn't they just call it an iguana, a big iguana? but they weren't very smart. And I don't want to see the report of this after. But you know, the budget on this was $15,000, and the box office was $55,000. The percentage there, and you know, movie accounting, that is a success. You know, if you spent, you know, millions and made millions, they'd say that you made money. So I guess this one did. But in 1955, people were not quite as picky about movies as they are now. They'd watch anything. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, it's a short movie. They probably had it as like a double feature, you know, with another really equally terrible movie. People would just, you know, they would just get people in the theater to you know, buy popcorn and drinks and watch whatever they had on the screen. Movies were just kind of still a novelty, a way to get out of the heat in the summer and the cold in the winter, I guess. Okay, thanks, Brenda. Appreciate your insights there. All right, Sean, KB9SOK, your last final parting shots on King Dinosaur.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Not a lot to really add. As everybody said, this is pretty rough. You know, the quality of this, obviously the writing was bad, the special effects were, you know, really bad. and even the music wasn't great either. You know, the music was more prominent during the quote-unquote dinosaur fighting sections, which was just annoying, to be quite honest, because it just was the same thing over and over. The audio wasn't even what I would consider great. At times it was not particularly the clearest. Just all around pretty bad. I don't know if I agree that it's the worst movie we've seen. It's definitely up there. I still think The Creeping Terror was just a little bit worse. And Jetstream, I would say, it's still, I would call the worst movie of all time, just because it is a modern-made movie and it was that bad. So, yeah, no, it's definitely up there. It's definitely probably nominated for this year's worst movie so far. We're only into February, but anyway. So, yeah, not a lot to add. Thanks, Virginia, for doing the net. And as always, enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. KB9SOK.
All righty, thank you, Sean. Well, let's see. My thoughts on this. I don't have a whole lot to add. The special effects were generally absolutely horrible. None of it looked real or believable. Double exposures and other, you know, pretty bush league, you know, special effects tricks used here. The ever-thrusting rocket problem, I get that. I know Bill hates anything that's not realistic about space travel, but back then all the movies had that. And in fact, one of the ones we watched not too long ago, I think it was Destination Moon, attempted at least to do all of that realistically. They even talked about it, found ways to work that into exposition, you know, that you thrust a rocket only long enough to get the velocity you need and the trajectory that you need, and then you coast because you don't have any, you have inertia, there's not enough gravity affecting you that you're going to need to thrust all that often unless you're changing course or adding velocity at just the right places. So, yes, the ever-thrusting rocket is always annoying. And then, the rocket landing scene was absolutely horrendous. It wasn't like they even tried to make it look like that rocket was landing even in a way that like a rocket would land now that we can actually land rockets thank you to SpaceX for that. They didn't even do that realistically if it were going to be landing, or even the way the LIM landed on the moon or anything. So, yeah, pretty lame. The jaunty documentary style music used in this occasionally was just funny and, made me think of a billion times when they've made fun of that kind of music on MST3K. And then some of the music during the more dramatic sequences actually kind of had a weird, trippy, modern vibe to it, where it almost seemed like the people who wrote it at least knew how to write music. So I mean, some of the music I think wasn't just terrible, but I think the movie was so terrible that anything associated with it is just going to be generally, construed as terrible. But yeah, I just thought the opening of it and the documentary feel of it was pretty silly and inconsistent with what they were going for. But I guess anything back then to do with space almost had to feel like a documentary, because we hadn't even launched, the Earth hadn't even launched, the Russians hadn't launched Sputnik yet. So there was still a long way to go for people to even. It was very, space, anything was very, very bleeding edge back then. And it sounds like we're back on normal repeater, so I will talk less. So, yeah, wow, we made it all the way to midnight, y'all. So I won't say much more. But, yeah, I think we pretty much covered it. This movie sucks. Okay, Tom, next week's movie, and then I'll let us all go.
From 2017, it's called Mission Backup Earth. In the near future, a cosmic catastrophe hits without warning, unforeseen by any scientists. The sun transits rapidly into a red giant. Having no choice, mankind desperately tries to escape the solar system. The survivors become space nomads seeking a viable replacement for Earth. That's next week's movie, Mission Backup Earth, in color, KE5 ICX.
Okay, next week, everybody look forward to the wonderful world of color. I'll leave us with that, and everybody have a great rest of your weekend, and a good night. I will return this repeater to normal amateur use, and we'll see y'all all next week in B5F.
Hey, Tom, wasn't that plot done before? Except the moon, they went to the moon, and the moon was the escape vessel?
Very right, Bill. Yes, that was the TV series Space, 1999, from 1975. 2 seasons, no waiting.
That's what I thought, Space 1999. Yeah, we've already seen that, but this must be different. Mission Backup Earth. Oh, boy. Well, I'm going to stick my foot out. It may get run over, but I'm going to say it can't be worse than this thing we just saw. Good evening. Hope it didn't get too cold down there in Corpus. We got a little smidgen of snow here one morning, but it wasn't much. In 5dB clear.
Oh, Bill, never underestimate a bad movie. This one with a title, Mission Backup Earth, how good could it be? Oh, yes, it got down into the 30s and I think a part of the 40s today. So I was out with my gang running this morning. I bailed after 13 miles. I had enough of cold weather and rain. That was enough. We've had rain. It's raining now. You get rain down here, but it was pretty. It's been cool for down here the last 3 or 4 days. Okay, see you later. You can watch Collision of the Planets. It's got space hippies in it. But it's not the Star Trek episode. It's Lost in Space. See y'all. KE5ICX. Clear.
W5BLT.
Hey, go ahead, Bill.
By the way, Tom, thanks for getting me added to the group. No need to respond. Just wanted to say thanks. W5BLT. Clear.
Hey, man, who doesn't like BLTs? Yeah, interesting thing to knit tonight, guys. Thanks for the entertainment. K5JDW.
That was a perfect double, and JDW beat whoever the other person was.
Now, that may have been me.
We heard Bill, and we heard JDW, but we didn't hear the other station.
Oh, that.
May have been Tom. Bill, we always appreciate your comments. They're great. See you guys later. This is N5BB Clear. Don't forget to come to the Irving Ham Fest next Saturday morning.
W5FC.
I'll try to talk my family into that. W5BLT. Clear.
Oh, there's other things they can see there that aren't strictly amateur radio related. Usually somebody's selling something. And they can look at all this weird amateur radio stuff and say, what the heck is this? And then you can feel it